system.
There's a difference between just saying love ya and I love you.
Oh yeah, there's a huge difference. 'Cause I think I love you
His weight.
has weight, and it's difficult. Like you could just say love you too, but
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
I love you. Worse if it's I love you and putting that person's name in front. Like I love you, mom. I love you, dad. Yeah. That's a whole. Welcome to another episode of the Safe Lounge. This is Nyashu Marilyn.
And I'm Caroline. Welcome, guys.
So today we have yet another exciting topic. Well, it's not really exciting, but it's a very important one and an interesting one, I must say. We're going to be talking about 3 simple words.
I love you.
And even though they're quite simple words, it will be interesting for you guys and as it was for us to find out that it's not so simple or it's not so easy for people to actually say I love you.
I think what sparked this, it has always been a thing, but I think what sparked it was there was a clip that went viral.
Yes.
Of Zimbabwe. There were Zimbabwean boys. Like there was a guy who would find like a Zimbabwean boy and ask them to call their dad to say I love you. And he would say, I'll give you this amount of money.
$10.
$10 if you can get your dad to say I love you back. And their responses were quite interesting.
It was surprising. Like he went back with his money basically. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what got us thinking that, this is something that we really need to talk about and we need to discuss and address.
And it was interesting to actually relive such things, like to actually come to the acceptance that, yeah, this is the reality of most households back home, like most Zimbabwean households. Then
we realized that this is not only a Zimbabwean thing.
Yeah.
It's okay, I don't want to use the word pandemic lightly, but it's a worldwide thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's especially like for Asian people with an Asian culture,
African culture. There was quite a number of
quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So now the question was, why do we struggle to say I love you so much, particularly in the context of parents saying it to children?
Yes, because in romantic relationships, well, not so many people don't struggle in that area, which is what I found a bit weird, because for people to start a relationship, right, they have to say those words to each other. Well, for most people, right, they have to say I love you too, and they continue telling each other I love you too, to nurture their relationship. But then these people, once they have kids, how come? Don't you find it interesting that they are not then able to say I love you to their kids, but they can say I love you to their partner, who is the parent?
Well, now that you mentioned that, I wonder if they continue. Like, I think this also has to do with generations, right? Because we are talking about like people in our generation. I don't think many people, it could be that some struggle, but I think it's changing.
It's
but
getting
the generation of our mothers and their parents, that wasn't really a thing. And I don't think they themselves told each other I love you that much. They weren't very affectionate like that.
I was thinking, like, could it be that they just didn't tell each other I love you that much? Well, verbalize I love you that much.
But they showed each other through actions.
They showed each other through actions. And which brings me to the next discussion point, right? Is showing it as the same as saying it. Like showing someone that you love them and actually saying I love you. Is it the same thing? Because no, when we talked about the friendship thing, when we did the friendship episode, right, the first one, we talked about this, and then I was saying that I believe my friends know that I love them because of what I do for them, but I don't necessarily tell my friends I love you.
But okay, what was your experience growing up? Did you have, your mom, okay, like frequently telling you I love you, and all the other grown-up people in your life telling you that?
An interesting thing, I think, okay, when I was younger, definitely, and it was also coming from a place of, I lost my dad when I was very young, right? When I was 3. So I think I felt love and I felt loved, and people expressed that they loved me more because it was like, oh, this baby. But then what I remember vividly is, I call it the tough love phase, like from like 18 up until I think college. I think during that phase, you don't hear this whole I love you thing going on a lot. Maybe it's because they don't want to spoil you. I don't know. Like for me, like I think that was my experience. But then at the same time, it's the words. It's the saying of I love you. But then when it comes to the actions,
you knew you were loved.
I knew I was loved. Like there is never a moment in my life growing up from childhood till today, family-wise, well, the ones that brought me up, I have to clarify, but yeah, that I felt like maybe they didn't love me. Like, and this is including even my uncles and my aunts and everyone, right? Like, yeah, like there was always that. Like, it's not like they would tell me I love you every day or like every time I'm going to school, because I was in boarding school, right? Like, it's not like every time I was going to school, they'll tell me, hi, I love you. And whoa. No, but I just knew, like, I knew from the preparation, from the actions, right? Like what we're saying, like from the preparations, when I would have all my tuck there and ready to go, like I knew they loved me. Because like when I was in high school, I would leave for school mostly from my uncle's place, right? I just knew, like, and even people at school, I think they knew that.
Shame, even the way you're expressing it now.
Like I knew I was loved.
You look like a loved child.
No, but then the thing is, knowing that knowing that you're loved and being told you're loved. That's why it took me back a bit, because I was trying to think. Hearing the words is a different thing.
I think my experience was quite different. Yeah, my experience was quite different. Like my dad, I don't ever remember him saying I love you until the day he died. I don't remember ever hearing those words from him.
But did he show you?
He was a tough man. Like he wasn't soft.
Like the African man.
He was a typical African man, and there were times I was convinced that this guy, I don't think he likes me much. Because like you remember when we spoke about him, that he was there, like he was there physically, but emotionally he was absent. So I didn't really feel a lot of love coming from him. So I only have a few collected moments that are precious to me, where we would do things together. And they mostly involved eating. Maybe that's why I'm a foodie.
Oh, she is. So you see, like that's
so
how
maybe that's where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's your interpretation of love. And now, like we were saying before, now what's your love language?
Words of affirmation.
So that means you want to hear, you crave to hear those words.
Yeah, because
And for
even
me,
my
like,
mom,
words of affirmation are like, down below. Like, I'll be okay. like, like words of affirmation
it doesn't
and
make
gifts,
sense.
like what I was saying, that words of affirmation and gifts, they're like at the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
But acts of service now, which then for me, actions would be better than the words.
Yeah.
But I think it's still important to hear those words. Like, now that you're grown up, like now that you're grown, right? Do you now tell your mom that you love her?
Yeah, because when we grew up, they never used to tell us. But I think at some point, I don't actually know how it changed, but at some point now, we have normalized it. And,
So
during
it
a
could have
phone
been the
call.
tough love phase. Like, they didn't want you to be spoiled kids. Like, but don't you sometimes feel it? Like,
I don't think it was a conscious. I think for them in particular, it was more a matter of how they grew up.
Yeah.
That
that
how
also
it is that
contributes.
you become what you learned from your parents.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and I know my dad had a difficult background. I don't think they also grew up with their parents telling them that I love you. So as a result, they just thought providing
is
good
enough.
It should be good enough because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for you. So yeah.
That's an interesting point. I think I'll have to ask about that.
But also another thing, apart from their, like the way that they grew up, it's also a cultural thing. Like culturally, I don't think, like certain cultures are
but
not
even
that affectionate.
Then, and it's not even about affection. It's about that whole thing, like what they were saying, that it's about doing things. You show love by doing things. As a child, I think for our parents, when they got older and they had their own lives, they would show love to their parents by bringing them things, buying them groceries, and you would hear our grandmothers talking about, oh yeah, my child did this, my child did that, my child did that. And even now we still have people, right, who are like, oh yeah, my child got me tickets to go to, things like that. So, and that's for them, that's I love you. And it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to call them and be like, you know what, I love you. Then if you're like, you know what, someone is delivering groceries for you, or someone is
It's a love language they understand.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a cultural thing in that sense, but at the same time,
Is it a love? Okay, this is digressing. Is it a love language, or it's just merely fulfilling obligation and responsibility?
it's both. It's like, for example, the reason why, for example, for me, right, I see gifts as like, it's my birthday and then someone gets me a gift. I don't take it as they're saying I love you, but maybe I appreciate you or something like that. Like,
all right.
But then I do not interpret it as I love you. But
So
for some people,
what would work for you when it's your birthday?
oh my God, breakfast in bed, take me for a massage, like that acts of service thing, like just being, just being baby. I don't know.
Okay.
That's I love
She
you.
just went into a zone. Okay.
Yeah, and just chilling. Quality time. That's yeah, for me, that's I love you.
All right. Okay.
So I understand people not being able to say I love you, but what are some of the reasons why people struggle to say I love you?
I think we already touched on them. Like, what did we say? There's a cultural thing. There's also the way that somebody grew up. But then it could also be an internal thing that's going on with that person, right? Like, you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't love you, Or if you don't really have enough love to give, how are you going to give that to somebody else?
Yeah, definitely it will be difficult. And speaking of that, past pain.
Wait, before we move past that, do you think that for parents who don't love themselves enough, it's difficult for them to give love to their children?
I think so. I think so. And because in general, right? Yeah, I think so.
So guys, please work on you. Work on yourself.
Definitely. I don't think there's any two way about it. And there was that thing that you were telling me about that for children, especially when they're younger, they really crave that. They need that they need those words. They understand love by hearing it. Unfortunately, because for actions, I think it's also because they can't comprehend it. Like, they won't understand that you're providing everything when they're still like toddlers or babies, right? But then when you tell them I love you, it means
because
more.
also it does something to the brain. When you hear I love you and you feel that love, it releases you remember we're talking about it releases dopamine. It releases a kind of high in your brain.
It's like a drug.
It releases, the feel good hormones, the oxytocins and everything. So you feel warm and loved. So when you don't hear that, of course, seeing it, having it put into action is important, but hearing it as well is also important. Yeah.
And then what about people that don't say I love you because they fear rejection? This is something that I actually struggled with, though. But then this is in terms of telling friends and loved ones, people that I'm in a relationship with, telling them that I love you back because of fear of rejection. But then that for me could necessarily, I don't know, but then I think it would stem from the daddy issues part, like not growing up seeing it every day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where it comes from. And then I would already think that if I tell this person I love you, what if they don't say I love you back? And then as a coping mechanism, I would then want that person to say it so many times before I can just say it back. Until like I'm sure, okay, they love me. They've told me I love you 10 times. And I'm like, okay, I love you too.
Oh, man.
And even with...
I think this is getting emotional for me.
Or even with friends, it's like, but what if they don't love me back? Again, that whole only child thing. What if they don't love me back? And then I'm just going around telling someone that I love you. So when it comes to people outside of family, that's where I struggled the most, expressing that. And I don't know why I struggled the most to do that per se, but then I think also, it comes in different ways, because like here we were saying in the context of family and parents and everything.
So with
that area is okay.
With your family, would you tell them that you love them, or you guys used to just act it out?
We just act it out, and we act it out openly. Like, it's like, yeah, we do. Like, we just, and we would maybe we'll just say, I love you, right? Or it's because I love you, that's why I'm doing this for you. Or, like, there's always been that, you're loved when it comes to the family setup.
Okay.
But then when it comes to people outside of that, that's where my insecurities would pop up. So I don't know, like, it could be because another reason why some people struggle to say I love you, basically that was the point, right? It's because they fear rejection.
Afraid somebody won't love you back.
Somebody won't love you back. But then why would parents struggle to tell their kids I love you? Because that doesn't apply to them, right?
That they're afraid that they won't love them back.
See? that doesn't work, I guess.
No,
in that
but
dynamic.
if you think about it, right? If you
Or they're
feel that
projecting.
you feel that you're not love worthy,
Uh-huh.
right? And this kid is there. There's something in your brain still that tells you this kid has no choice.
All right.
But would they really love me?
There was this interesting. No, I just thought of this interesting topic. Were you not the one who talked about this? No, it was it was someone else. But you were there when they were saying that. Do you think that our parents love us just in general, or they love us because we are their kids? Like they have no option but to love you, or they genuinely love you because you are lovable?
I think it's both, really. One, they have no option. Like like you grow, like if for example your mom, right? From what conception,
Yeah.
you will grow in this, and you're already forming a bond, right?
So they
and
have
then
no
you
option.
you come out, and then they have to nurture you in all those times, and everything that's happening. It's a bond that's forming that's very difficult to break. So that's where then, even if a child does something hideous, the mother will still love them. But then again, there are cases, I think the narrative has been pushed so much of that parents will always love their children, but there are cases where parents dislike their children.
Yeah.
Or they're so damaged that they cannot really love their child back
the right way.
I remember having a conversation with someone. I was having a conversation with someone. Their child did something and they reacted. And I said, what this child said really isn't, although it sounds like they were attacking you, it's really a reflection of what's going on inside them. Right. Like
it didn't warranty the reaction they got from the parent.
One thing I struggled with my mom was we had an altercation when I was young. I think, I was young. And then I said something about myself. Looking back now, it was clearly a reflection of the damage that was going on inside me, that I didn't feel like I was worthy enough, that I didn't feel like anybody loved me or that she could love me. I felt like this was the only thing that I liked about myself. When I said it, the way she reacted, she basically attacked me.
Yeah.
For her, it was almost like I'm attacking her and her way of parenting. But no, it was just, I was young. It's a reflection of what's going on inside of me. But when you are unhealed or you have your own issues going on with you, because as a parent, you're not just parenting, you also have all these other issues that you're juggling, your parents, your work, whatever, everything, your relationship. And so you have your things going on. And so when a child says this, you might feel like they're attacking me.
Oh my God, they came for me. They just came for me. And you're like,
but
not today.
but it's not the case. It has nothing to do with you. So I guess, in that way, people need to be, I think you can only be in that position to be able to examine what another person is saying and think about where really is this coming from, without being defensive when you yourself are in a good place.
Oh, that just reminded me of something. This I love you, failure to say I love you, coming from a place of pain or associating the word I love you with pain. Actually, I didn't think I might cry, but I'm starting to feel like...
I know, I told you this was going to be emotional.
But anyway,
I've been trying to hold it in.
I'll try. So, this thing, right? This is happening to me as a child, right? I'd been losing people that were close to me, like constantly, like year after year, like
Losing as
in they were dying, right? So at some point in time, I remember, I think this was now like when I was in around grade 7 or Form 1. I saw myself starting to feel like I didn't want to be close to
because you're afraid they might leave.
to certain people because I was afraid, not just leave, I was scared that they might die.
That your love could
Like,
potentially be the reason why they're dying.
exactly. And I believed it for some time. I believed it. I remember struggling a lot when like
Guys, this is getting
like
emotional.
I remember thinking that, okay, maybe even if when out here like someone is not feeling well, I'll think maybe it's because I now love them too much. And because I love them too much, they might actually I might lose them. But then it took me some time. It took a lot of counseling, and this was not like therapy counseling, like church pastors counseling type of thing. That no, like you just need to let it go. And yeah, I realized that no, that's not how life works. But as a kid, I actually believed it.
Yeah, you internalized it.
I did. And I thought, so that would potentially stop someone from saying, I love you, or expressing even. Like at that point, I was even scared to even express it, even showing it in action. It just felt like if I love someone too much, I might lose them because the people that I loved that much and I told them that I lost them. So
that's heavy. That is heavy.
So those are some of the reasons why some people don't or find it difficult to say, I love you.
And what could potentially happen, like in a case where you have not received that help, you could then grow up with that mentality that if I love people, I will lose them.
Yes.
And as a result, you keep yourself in a cocoon and you don't give yourself space to love.
Yeah.
Or even to receive love because you're keeping yourself caged.
And not and that could potentially even affect your relationships, right?
Yeah, because you don't want to. You are afraid that if you love this person that much,
you will
lose them. And that is so sad.
It is. But unfortunately, I don't know how the brain works, but especially for kids, that's why I'm always saying that there's a lot that happens in a child's brain. And I think it's very important to make sure that at the very young age, things like saying I love you and explaining loss when you, because also another thing, oh my God, we're drifting, but anyway, another thing is usually when people lose someone in the family, right, they think about the grown-ups and not the kids.
And they forget the kids.
But then all of those things and them internalizing that could actually result in them growing to think that, or finding it difficult to say things like I love you to other people because they have unresolved pain inside
or
them.
even in cases where this just got very deep. In cases where the person that you love is the abuser, so then you tend to associate love with pain.
Yes,
like you were saying. And now you would need to have help to separate the two.
Yeah,
because sometimes you would then keep just being attracted to people who abuse you, and falling in love with them because your mind can't quite separate the two. And so if you are struggling with that, please get help.
Yeah, and get help as soon as possible, because the more you prolong it, the more people are going to leave feeling unloved, because
and it keeps you
can't say it.
because at the end of the day, like we were explaining that time, that if there's no reciprocity in relationships, at the end of the day, it phases out.
Yeah,
like a person will withdraw because they're not feeling any love coming from you. So at the end of the day, it also keeps you kind of lonely.
But what I like, on a lighter note, right? What I like is, even when we were doing the research for this episode, right? I noticed that this whole thing of showing love, of saying I love you, you can start at any given time, and it almost always produces good results. Like, no matter what age you started, even if you're 50, even if you're 60, you can still start telling your kids I love you, and it will bring
it's
such a huge difference.
It's not always easy. It's very easy for people who grew up in it.
Yes.
But in the beginning, it's very awkward. It is very, very awkward. But the more you say it and do it, like, when we're reading about it, there was somebody who was saying, I started saying it at 49 years old to my parents.
And the parents were like, what, 80 something, right?
Yes, one of them I think was in the 80s, another one was in the 70s.
And
it was awkward at first, but then now they're used to it, so you can start.
They say each other, they tell each other, I love you. So
if it's a requirement to you, you can let the people around you know. You can start yourself by doing it, and also maybe probably have a conversation about it.
Start by texting it. Do you know that even like start by texting it. Start by texting I love you. After a conversation with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends. Just say I love you.
Yeah.
And see how it goes. Because the moment you're used to it, it becomes easy. Once you get it in the system.
There's a difference between just saying love ya and I love you?
Oh yeah. There's a huge difference. I think I love you
has weight.
And it's difficult. Like you could just say love you too. But saying I love you, worse if it's I love you and putting that person's name in front. Like, I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. Yeah. That's a whole it's a whole different thing. But then again, with kids now, I find it easy.
With kids, it's very easy. It's very easy with
you
kids.
Can even
it's with grown-ups that it's like, you're trying to navigate your way. You don't know how they respond. It gets awkward for a bit, and then sometimes it really might never come, that they might never respond with I love you too. Because we saw it, right, with those guys who would call their dad. Like one of them was like, what did you do? Where is this coming from?
Hang up, let me call your mom.
What did you do, right? It really might never come.
Yeah, it might never come.
So maybe, and it might be awkward with that kind of a person to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
But knowing that with the things that they do, that they actually love you could make
all the difference.
Yeah.
And is there any other reason why you think someone might potentially be unable to say I love you? To verbalize I love you? Like maybe, but we already spoke about it, right? Like pain, heartbreaks, trauma. We talked about that. If you're in an abusive relationship. Yes, there are reasons why you could potentially struggle. But the emphasis for today's episode is that it can be learned. You can improve, you can get better. Mm-hmm. And you have to start by exercising self-love.
Yes, you have to love yourself. You can't give what you don't have.
Heal internally. And
telling yourself that you love you.
Ooh, like looking yourself in the mirror and just be like, I love you.
Yeah, there was a time that I was speaking to someone and they had all this crazy stuff going on in their lives and the people around them. So I was like, look at yourself in the mirror and self-affirm to yourself so that you build yourself up. Even though the people around you aren't saying it, do that to you. Because once you do that to you, it's then easier to then give it out to the people around you.
Yeah. I think that would help definitely. And
just don't overdo it.
no,
Don't become arrogant. Okay, love you enough. Okay.
And mainly this exercise is for people that are struggling in that area, that don't love themselves, or they have internal issues with themselves. But if you're good, you're good.
Yeah,
don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
And then start by texting. Start by telling people that you think would not reject. Like, don't just start by going, let's say you have strained relationship. What do they call it?
Yeah, strained
relationship with, let's say you have a strained relationship with your dad, and then you choose to start by telling your dad that you love. Like, the chances of rejection are going to be higher. So start with someone that you already know, like maybe you're close with your sister. Start by telling them, I love you. And then let it build up.
Yeah, it gets normal.
It gets normal. Such that even if you're later going to face rejection, it won't hit you as much, because you now know that I have all these people who love me. So I think it's important to start with the people that are close to you, that you already know they love you, maybe by actions, then put it into words.
And even for some people who may be like me, you never got it from your parents when you were growing up, you can change that narrative.
Yes.
Right? They really could have a hole in their heart where nobody ever really told them that, you are loved.
And
you could provide that healing for your parents by telling them you love them. And you'll be surprised that it will heal something in them, and they will respond positively.
And you know, like what people always say, like when someone does something that's really nasty or things like that, and they're like, who raised you? Like, we take that statement very lightly, but then it's actually, it carries a lot of weight, because it then shows that people act the way they do because of some experience that they have had before. Yeah. And we can change that. We can do better. It's not like right now, especially for adults. For kids, it's still okay. They should expect the parents, and hopefully the parents are the ones that are listening, to do that for them. But for us adults and grown-ups, as long as you're now like a teenager or something like that, you can start that.
Yeah.
And
exercise grace. As we're wrapping up, that exercise grace, because like we said, some people could really have, like your parents or whoever it is, could have had a tough time growing up.
Yeah.
And they're not able to pour out what they never received. So exercise grace in that, whilst we want our parents to be perfect, as you grow up, you realize, like, they start out being the perfect parents, but as you grow up, you realize, no, this is actually a person with faults as well.
With insecurities.
We have things going on with them. So
they've been heartbroken before.
Okay.
No.
Okay, it's true.
Some of the things that we never really consider, right? Yeah. Like that my parents could have also experienced the terrible heartbreak. But then
so they
we need to exercise
what's
grace,
that saying? They did the best that they could with what they had
and what they knew.
What they knew. So exercise grace. And let's change. Let's be the change that we want to see and to experience.
Yes, let's tell each other I love you. And if you have interesting also stories about upbringing and things like that, it will be interesting to hear from you. Like, do you tell each other I love you in your family?
Or how did you change the narrative? Or if you are going to start doing it, how did it go? Let us know.
If you try it, please, that would be interesting actually to know, like, how did it go? But I cannot overemphasize. Don't start with the extremes. Don't start with the worst person. Start with the best person.
Start with the small.
And then let it build up. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. And just a special thank you to people that have been watching our episodes. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the love.
Yeah.
Keep watching.
And we love you guys.
Yes, we love you.
We might as well start practicing it. Yeah.
Oh my God. You see, it's coming out. It's coming out. It's in me. It's like, even when
She's
she
learning.
said it.
She's learning.
See?
That uncomfortable laugh. She's learning. Very soon she won't be laughing after saying I love you.
Yeah, very soon I won't. So, thank you guys. Like, share, subscribe, share with your friends. See you in the next one.
See you soon. Thank you.